My name is Luis Espinosa, and I'm the Director for the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis. What we're going to be doing now in the next several weeks, we're going to be talking more about the order of Mass. So one of the things that we do as members of the faithful, as members of the church, is that we partake and we participate in the Sunday liturgy, in Sunday Mass, and that holy sacrifice of the Mass. But sometimes we don't stop and think of what are those parts of the Mass. And so when we talk about the order of Mass, we have to mention that there is 4 parts. And the first part that we're going to be addressing in the next few session series is looking at the introductory rites. And so where do we go for most of our information to know about the order of Mass? Well, we can begin with the general instruction of the Roman Missal. So in the general instruction of the Roman Missal, when it talks about the Mass parts, we look at letter A, the introductory rites, but more specifically, a number 46. So the general instruction of the Roman Missal, number 46, says the following: the rites that precede the liturgy of the word, namely the entrance, the greeting, the penitential act, the Kyrie, the Gloria in excelsis, and collect, have the character of a beginning, an introduction, and a preparation. So I want to mention that again, that it says that these rites have the character of a beginning, an introduction, and a preparation. For what? And so that's where we have to talk about looking into more closely as what happens as we come together is that we're coming from all different parts. We're coming from our homes, we're coming from maybe work, we're coming from our families, from being different communities. And the hope and the idea is that as we come together to begin with Holy Mass, is that we come together so that we can become one mind, one voice, one heart. And so the general instruction continues by saying, their purpose is to ensure that the faithful who come together as one establish communion and dispose themselves properly to listen to the Word of God and to celebrate the Eucharist worthily. And so these introductory rites, again, begins with that entrance. And so we continue to look at the entrance. And what is the entrance? Well, the entrance has several parts to it, in a sense that the entrance mentions and talks about the procession that is to be had, be as a way to start the celebration of Mass, but that also part of that entrance is what will be sung as that procession takes place. And so number 47 in the general instruction of the Roman Missal says that when the people are gathered, the priest enters with the deacons and ministers, and the entrance chant begins. Notice what it says, the entrance chant begins. And then we get a little bit more of what the entrance chants could be. So number 48, it breaks down the entrance chant as to how this could possibly take shape in every parish. So number 48 says the following: the chant is sung alternately by the choir and the people, or similarly by the cantor and the people, or an entire people, or by the choir alone. Then we have an adaptation for the United States for us here. It says in the United States, there are 4 options to the entrance chant. So these are 4 things that could be done when we talk about the entrance chant, the entrance hymn, if you will. So the first option is that the antiphon from the Missal, or the antiphon with the psalm from the Graduale Romanum, as set to music, that is what is the first option, and that's usually the recommended, or the first one that we take. That the second option would be the antiphon and the psalm of the Graduale Simplex for the liturgical time. So if we don't take that first option, then possibly looking at the second option, looking at the Graduale Simplex instead of the Graduale Romanum. So the third one is a chant from another collection of psalms and antiphons that is approved from the conference of bishops or even the diocesan bishop. So this is a third option. Now, what's the fourth and last option is another liturgical chant that is suited to the sacred action, to the day or time of the year, And it's also similarly approved by the Conference of Bishops or by the bishop himself. And so the mention is if there's not going to be any singing done, so what should be the appropriate step forward is that if there's no singing, then the antiphon given in the Missal is to be recited either by the faithful or by some of them, or even by a reader, or recited by the priest himself, who may even adapt it as an introductory explanation. And so the entrance chant, the entrance hymn, again in the United States, should be one of these four options. That ideally we would start with the first, looking at the Graduale Romanum. Second, looking at the Graduale Simplex. Third, looking at possible psalms that have been provided for us to use as part of the entrance hymn. And lastly, a liturgical chant or a liturgical hymn that has been approved by the Bishops' Conference or by the bishop himself. So one of the things I wanted to close by saying is that where do we get this documentation from? And it's really been since the reform of the liturgy that we find that several documents have come to play. The first one is from the Vatican II. After Vatican II, after Sacrosanctum Concilium was published and given to us as a church as one of the documents, we also received an instruction called Musicam Sacram, which focuses on music in the liturgy. And from there, the U.S. Bishops' Conference, the USCCB, then provided us with a document for the United States called Sing to the Lord, Music and Divine Worship, that was published in 2008. So when we talk about music, I recommend that those that are musicians or members of the choir, that they know these documents. Again, Musicam Sacrum, Sing to the Lord, so that become familiar with what is the role of music, what is the role of the choir, the cantor, the musicians, when we talk about the sacred liturgy. Then when we talk about the order of Mass, there are two documents that had been available in the past. First one is the Introduction to the Order of Mass that was published by USCCB in 2003. And second is the General Instruction, which we find in the Roman Missal, but also has been published as a separate book, a separate edition that we have that was revised in 2011. So these are some of the documents that are important for us as a church as we continue to celebrate, as we continue to participate in that sacred liturgy, in the holy sacrifice of the Mass.